Recording's in progress. So here's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to just have a real talk, a real conversation about the market that we're in and how to generate business in this particular marketplace, some things that we have to do differently that we haven't done in years past. Okay, some things we have to do that we've done in the years past, but maybe there's a couple different things. And I wanted to give a little bit of reality of what's going on out there, different type of mindset and what the consumers are thinking and stuff like that. So grab your pens, your papers, grab your notebooks, whatever the case may be. And as always, I always appreciate any participation. So if you want to, when I ask questions, if you want to mute yourself, put stuff in the chat box, whatever the case may be. If you have questions, you can always unmute or put your questions in the chat box and I will look at those. Okay, so here's what I want to start with. I want to start with a reality check. We're going to start with a reality check. So I looked up LA, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino County. Each county closed sales. Now, I didn't bother going into current listings, pendings, active listings, stuff like that. I could dive really deep if I want to, but for the purpose of this, I just wanted to look at closed sales. So LA County, you can write these down or you can just listen. It's not really too relevant. As January of 2022 versus January of 2021. So all of these are year over year. Okay, how did this year could do compared to the month of last year? January for LA County, closed sales this year were down 8.5%. February was down 6.9%. March was down 7.8%. So in LA County, closed sales are down each of the first 3 months. And that trend will probably continue somewhere between 7 to 10%. Orange County, January 2022, down 19.6%. February was down 22.4%. March was down 17.9%. So Orange County closed sales are down anywhere from 18 to 22% year over year, the first 3 months of the year. Riverside County, January down 4.4%, February down 3.5%, March down 6.6%. So Riverside County also down anywhere from 3 to 7%, essentially, in terms of closed sales. San Bernardino County, January was down 5.9%. February was even. There was a one number difference. So it's pretty much even. March was actually up 2.3%. Okay, so San Bernardino County as a whole not being affected as much as the other counties so far. So right off the bat, what does that tell you of what the trend is going to be for 2022 in terms of closed sales? Right? Gonna be down, right? That's so far the trend. First 3 months, that the number of closed sales in 2022 is going to be less than 2021 by a fairly decent amount. Somewhere probably around, depending on the county, could be anywhere from 7 to 20%. Now, the number of real estate agents with an active license, okay, the number of real estate agents with an active license as of today is the highest it has ever been. There's never been a time in the United States where there have been more active real estate licenses. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they are all active, like they're not actively in the market, but there are more active real estate licenses than there ever been. And as this pandemic comes to an end, I feel like I've said that once or twice over the last 2 years, but I feel pretty confident this time. As this pandemic comes to an end, are there going to be some real estate agents that haven't been around the last couple of years starting to trickle back in? Is that going to happen? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. I agree.
Yes.
Now, look, how much they participate is yet to be seen, but they will start trickle back in, which means that there's an opportunity for them to find a deal. Okay. So you have more newer licensees, more people with an active real estate license. You have more agents that are going to start to kind of trickle back in, and you have less transactions. So what does this mean so far? It means that in 2022, the trend is for the first 4 months that there's going to be less transactions available and more agents going after those transactions. So far, is anybody happy on this particular meeting?
No.
So far, things are not going so well based on the first 10 minutes of this meeting, okay? But I wanted to give you real hard truth. These are actual numbers. So I didn't want to just make stuff up. This is really what's going on, okay? Now, again, we don't know how active people are going to be, but just think about this. If every real estate agent that comes back in the business gets one transaction, that's thousands upon thousands of transactions that are taken up by that one agent who just came back to list their own home or list their parents' home or something like that. It all adds up, even if they're not very active. So we just have to be aware of that. So that's where we're at so far. So now moving on, those are the general information about market. Yes.
Yeah, Robert, I was just saying, this is what kind of the interesting. The report that you're making is based on the first, couple of months or 3 months of 2022, where the average mortgage rate was around 3.5%. Now, starting the second quarter, it jumped 2% from 3.5%. So now, when we see the new report with the new rates, that will be even different. Probably.
No, you're 100% right. And to Michael's point, it does take a couple months for the higher rates to really start showing the effect of that. So we will start to see that. So keep that in mind as well. So now let's move on to the general public. All right. I promise we're going to get to some positive stuff. Okay. Let's move on to the general public right now. In your prospecting, are you finding a lot of people that are raising their hand saying, I'm interested in buying or selling, come on over? Are there a lot of people with their hand raised just saying that? Yes or no?
No.
I tend to agree with that. Okay. But maybe Tyrone and I are just having a coaching call, which is fine. It's fine by me. Right. So generally speaking, people are not raising their hands saying, hey, I'm ready. Yep. Come on over. What do you got? So I want you to write this down. People are confused. People are confused. Unless you were alive during World War II, and I don't know if anyone was alive during the Depression, this is likely the most uncertain and strange 2 years of your life. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you were alive during World War II, okay, maybe you got something. But other than that, for most people, this has been the most unusual, strange, concerning 2 years of their life with everything that went on, pandemic related, politically related, everything related. This has been a very, very odd 2 years. So now 2 years, people are coming out of this. And from a real estate standpoint, they're coming out of this, and now they're hearing that interest rates are on the rise and inventory is low, but prices are still skyrocketing. So interest rates are on the rise, but prices are still skyrocketing, inventory is low. And then they're reading things like, are there going to be foreclosures? Are prices going to drop? What kind of loan programs are available? Am I going back to the office or am I working from home? Gas prices are crazy. I mean, this is what's going on in people's lives. So here's the reality. Given all of this, it's an important note. Here's the reality. There are people that want to buy and sell, but they don't have anybody guiding them. Or they have the wrong people guiding them. There are people out there right now that want to buy or sell real estate, but they don't have anybody guiding them, answering all this confusion that they're coming out of, or they have the wrong people guiding them. What do I mean by wrong people guiding them? What do you think I meant by that?
Someone who may not be as experienced, someone who hasn't practiced enough, someone
Sure.
who doesn't have a good team behind them.
Sure.
They're
Sure.
watching CNN.
Okay, sure, they're doing that.
Other than me.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Do you have a friend, family, aunt, uncle, somebody in your life that knows everything about everything?
Oh boy.
Yes, I think so.
Where do we
I
start?
have a client that knows everything, thinks he knows everything.
So this is what I mean. And Tyrone's right, because the wrong people guiding them could be real estate agents that aren't very seasoned, aren't very experienced, and they're just looking for a dollar. But the wrong people guiding them could be their uncle, who knows everything about the real estate business. And they're guiding them. They're telling them what's going on. That's also what I mean by wrong people guiding them. So here's the thing. If nobody's guiding them, they are left to come up with their own conclusions to all the questions that I just presented. If nobody's guiding them, they're left to come up with their own conclusions. Now, let me ask you this. If you leave people to come up with their own conclusions of the real estate market, is that generally going to work in your favor? Yes or no?
No.
I see
No.
Tyrone says no. I see you're no. If you leave people to come up with their own conclusions of, are there going to be foreclosures? Are prices going to drop? What's going on with the loan programs? What's going on with gas prices? What's going on with inventory? What's going on with interest rates? If you leave people to come up with their own conclusions, generally it will not work in your favor.
That is correct.
So what you need to do is be a resource to people to answer these questions. Let me give you an example. I mentioned this a couple times recently, but this is because it's so right in front of us. This is the best example I can give. And we joked about it, but let's be serious about this for a second. There was an article that came out last week that said interest rates were 7%. Okay. A lot of you saw it because I got a number of text messages about it. Neil came in, he was all excited about it, so on and so forth. So interest rates are 7%. Now, that article was incorrect top to bottom, because that morning I talked to two lenders and they said that I don't know where the hell they got that from. It's not that, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But let's say you're a consumer. I'm a homeowner and I'm thinking about doing something, and I now see this article that says interest rates are 7%. I want to buy a house. Now I'm thinking, well, it's 7%. I'm not buying. That's crazy. I'll wait till either prices drop or interest rates drop. So you just lost a buyer. Or I'm a seller and I want to buy a replacement property, and I go, well, I'm not going to sell this house and then buy a replacement property for $1 million at a 7% interest rate. Forget about it. I'll just stay here. You just lost a listing because you've let them come up with their own conclusions. And that stuff is online all the time. It's on social media all the time. I see this stuff. I'm not a big social media guy for a variety of reasons, but typically, like, I follow some business accounts and things like that. And it happens every day, without a doubt. It happens every day. I'll scroll through to see what's going on, and there'll be one article that says real estate market still hot, and then scroll, real estate market shows signs of cooling down. How can both of those be right? But that's what's out there. So We're leaving people to come up with their own conclusions. That's not going to work out in our favor. So now that we've gotten through the tough part of what's actually going on in the world, what the hell do we do to go find business? All right, I'm so glad you asked. Let's dive into what do you do? Given all this information, given what's going on out there in the world, given what's happening, what's on people's minds, what do you do to find business in 2022? I wrote down a list of thoughts. Let's go through these. They're not written in any particular order of importance. I wrote down thought number 1. You're not going to like this one, but we're going to start with it so we get it out of the way. I wrote down you have to talk to more people or increase your skills or both. You have to talk to more people or increase your skills or both. Now, here's why I say that. Simple math. Some of you are going, Robert, nobody told me math was going to be involved. I apologize. So we'll do simple math. Simple math tells me that if you do the exact same thing you did last year, you will get 10 to 20% less business because, as we discussed earlier, there's going to be less transactions and more agents. So if you simply talk to the same number of people at the same skill level as you did in 2021, you will simply do 10 to 20% less business. Just simple math. So you either need to A, talk to more people, or B, increase your skills so you're talking to the same number of people, but you're more skilled and you're more efficient, or do both. Talk to more people and increase your skills. Because there's just going to be less business and more agents going after it. So you cannot stay still. Reminds me of the Lou Holtz quote that you're either getting better or you're getting worse, but you never, either getting better or getting worse, you never stay the same. So you have to talk to more people or increase your skills or both. Okay. If it were up to me, if you were going to do one, I would say increase your skills. We'll talk more about that later. The second thing I wrote down, what do you do? I wrote down shake them up. Shake them up. Shake them up. So what I mean by shake them up, what have homeowners been hearing from real estate agents for the last 2 to 3 years? What's the pitch from a real estate agent last 2 to 3 years?
Looking to sell or buy.
Okay.
Hot, hot, hot.
That's it. Market's hot. Market's hot. Hey, Mr. and Miss Homer, market's hot. You should sell. Market's hot. Market's hot. Market's hot. Blah, 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 blah. Market's hot. Which is stupid because it's a vague statement and there's no specific item to what's hot. Right? So that's a side story. But they've been hearing market's hot, market's hot, market's hot, market's hot, da, da, da. So when a real estate agent calls a homeowner, I lost somebody because when I said that was stupid, I knew that was going to happen. When a homeowner, he gets a phone call from a real estate agent, this is what the homeowner does. All right, yeah. Tell me how hot the market is and how much equity I got. Yeah. This is what they do. Okay. Be the one that shakes them up by saying the script that we've been using is, hey, I don't know if you know this, but there's some changes in your market. Be the one that does that for the homeowner to go, yeah, market's hot. Wait, what? What do you mean changes? What changes? What are you talking about? I haven't heard about any changes. No real estate agents told me about any changes. Now you have the attention. Now they're listening to you instead of just pushing you aside that market's hot. Now, is it still a good market for sellers? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Armin says yes. Tess says yes. So yeah, it's still a good market for sellers, but don't be the market's hot person. Market's changing. Things are changing. Go over the affordability. That's what shakes them up. That's what gets people concerned. Write this down. Nobody wants to be first, but nobody wants to be last. Here's what I mean by that. You tell people market's changing. They want to hear about it because they don't want to be the last to know. They don't want to miss the boat, right? They don't want to be first. They don't want to be the guinea pig. They don't want to be the one that says, yeah, sure, let's test it out. but they don't want to be last. Be the one that's giving them the information now. They're on top of it. They're the first to know. They're not going to miss the boat. You got to shake them up. Tell them what's going on.
Hey, Robert.
Yes.
When the people ask, oh, right now, because the rates, the prices are going to come down on whatever, I heard the best way to say it is, it's not that the prices are being down or the prices are being going down. It's actually the prices are being adjusted, because before they were going crazy.
Sure.
And now, because the rates are being adjusted to be, more realistically, not like going crazy.
Yeah, you could use adjusted, you could use softening, you could use whatever word. Don't say that the market's going down. Don't say that the market's going to crash. Don't say prices are going to go down. One, because in most markets, that would make you a liar. Okay. And two, you don't want to be a fear monger agent. But yeah, as Michael said, they're adjusted, they're softening, whatever the case may be, which in a lot of our markets they is. Well, what does softening mean? It means that last year you might have gotten 25 offers on this property within the first 2 hours. Now you might get 7. So it's still a great time, but it's not, I'm not going to be able to, in most of our markets, get you 25 offers. Okay. We might have to be a little more aggressive on the pricing, shake them up. I wrote down here third, you have to get people to open up, find out what's on their mind. You have to get people to open up, find out what is on their mind. So let me ask you this. Has everybody seen, read, or heard something about the real estate market recently?
Absolutely.
100%. Even if they didn't want to. They've seen it, read it, heard it somewhere, right? Especially over the last 2 years with as wild it's been. So don't let them tell you they haven't. They've read, heard, or seen something. You got to figure out what's on their mind, because what did we talk about earlier? If you leave people to come up with their own conclusions, it will not work in your favor. How do we get them to not come up with their own conclusions? We have to figure out what's on their mind so we can then answer the question. So, they say, the question that I presented yesterday that some of you are using very well is, I'm sure you've heard, read, or seen something about the real estate market recently. What questions do you have that I can answer? Now, the power of that question is this. Number one, when I tell them that, it eliminates the option that they haven't heard, read, or seen something. So I can't say, hey, have you heard, read, or seen something about the real estate market? They might say, no. I know that's not true. So I'm going to go, I'm sure you've heard, read, or seen something. What questions do you have? Well, I heard this. Is that true? I heard that. What's going on with this? Now I have them opened up. And when they opened up, I can potentially find a deal instead of them being guarded. I wrote down 3 scenarios. You'll either find a deal now because you got them to open up. You can find a deal later. Or worst case scenario, you've answered their question. So when they pass on information, they're passing on correct information. Because you want people passing on correct information, not the crazy uncle passing around what they think is the correct information. But you have to get them to open up. Ask them, what have you heard? What have you read? What have you seen? What questions do you have? You got to get people to open up more. It's a different market. They haven't figured this out yet. There's a whole different thing. Don't assume that you know what's on their mind. I wrote down here next, when you're prospecting, well, actually, let me write this down. The 4th point I wrote down is anything other than a no means dig deeper. Anything other than a no means dig deeper. So here's what I mean by that. When you're prospecting and you ask someone, are you interested in selling your home? If they are not interested and never thought about selling their home, what are they going to say?
No.
You're going to say no, right? No. Not interested. Click. Okay. Right. Does that happen to everybody, or is that just me and Tyrone?
We are.
Robert, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. They say, oh, I'm so glad you called. No, I'm not interested in selling, but let me tell you a little story. No, they don't have any yarns for you. They don't tell you about the kids and family. No, they say no, click, right? So write this down. Anything other than a no means dig deeper, because clearly they've thought about it. If it's anything other than a no, there's something on their mind. Go further. Now, they may have thought about it for a half a second while they were waiting for their table to get ready at a restaurant, okay? It might be that. I don't know. But it could also be it's been on their mind for weeks, months, 2 years for some people. Well, bottom line is there's something about it, dig further. So they say, you say, have you thought about selling your house? And they say, well, I don't know where I would go. Let's talk about it. Well, home prices are too expensive. Great, let's talk about it. Even if it's the slightest hesitation, when do you plan on moving? They go, well, I think we're good. No. Dig.
Hey, Robert.
Yes.
So when they ask you that question and you dig more into the questions, do you suggest to handle that question over the phone? They say, well, I haven't heard anything. So what is new? Do you want us to say something, or do you want to just to close
well, if
for
they
the
say,
appointment?
yeah, sure. If they say, well, you know what, actually, I haven't heard anything. What's going on? Well, let me ask you, have you considered buying, selling, maybe getting a second home investment property anytime recently? See if maybe I can get them to open up what's on their mind. No, we're not selling. We're not buying. We're never going to do anything for the next 20, 40, 50 years. Okay, great. Well, then I guess it really doesn't matter what's new in the marketplace. Do you know anyone that is interested in doing that? But if I ask the question, have you thought about buying, selling? Then they might say, well, we have thought about selling, but okay, great. Now I have a conversation to open up with. But let's go back to the other point there. People are going to move, obviously life events, right? Okay, that's it. But they're also going to move for either the pain of the current house or the pleasure of the next house. So somebody says, you know what? Well, I don't know where I'm going to go. If I ask somebody if they're interested in selling and they say, well, I don't know where I'm going to go, is that a pain of the current house or a pleasure of the next house?
Pleasure of the next house.
Well, it's a pain of the first house, because if it was a pleasure, they would know where they were going to go.
Oh, I got you.
So
Okay.
I say, have you thought about something? They say, well, I don't know where I'm going to go. If they don't know where they're going to go, that means the pleasure of the next house isn't there, but there's a pain in the current house. Dig on that. Mr. or Mrs. homeowner, whenever somebody tells me that, usually it means there's something about their current house they're not totally fond of. So I'm curious, why would you be thinking about moving anyways? Well, this house is a little too small for us. Now I've got something. I'm moving. Will it end up being a deal? I don't know, but write this down in all caps, underline it. Get in the game. You have to get yourself in the game. And when somebody says, well, I don't know where I'm going to go, and you say, well, okay, no problem, and you hang up, you're not in the game. You are out of the game. You are on the bench, you're on the sidelines. You might even be in the nosebleed seats. You might still be tailgating. I don't know. You're not in the game. I know that. I want to be in the game. I want to take shots. I want to get after it. I want to give myself an opportunity. So I'm going to dig to say, well, what is it that you don't like about your current house? Why would you want to move anyways? Well, this house is a little too small. Okay, great. Tell me more about that. If you ever don't know what to say, tell me more about that. Well, this house is too small. Tell me more about that. Well, we got twin boys. They're 14 years old. They're already 6'5", 260. We live in they got bunk beds because we have a 2-bedroom house. Yeah, well, this sounds like
more about that.
Yeah, this sounds like it's about to be a disaster. Now, I know you said you don't know where you're going to go. Do you want to stay in the same city? Well, yeah. Okay, so you just need a bigger house. Now I've got something. They say, well, but replacement properties are too high. I understand that. But let me ask you this. If price wasn't a factor, why would you move into a replacement property to begin with? What's on their mind? What's happening? Well, we are thinking about doing something, but I think the market might crash. Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Where'd you hear that? If the market doesn't crash, where would you move? Anything other than a no, dig, find more. Remember, people are not raising their hand saying, I'm interested in buying or selling. What they're doing is they're leaving little breadcrumbs. Does anybody remember as a kid the game Clue? Professor
Yes.
Plum in the library with the candlestick? Some of you looking at me like I'm the only one who played that.
I remember it.
Sometimes that's what this is right now. There's not people raising their hand going, yeah, I'm interested in selling. What do you got? Come on over. They're leaving little clues. Well, I don't know. The replacement properties are too high. I don't know where I'm going to go. You know what? I don't know. They're leaving little clues. You just have to dig more to find. Anything other than a no means that they've thought about it. So I want you to write this down. The net is what will decide their next move. Other than a life event, right? Whatever their motivation is. But if it's a pain or pleasure, the net. Well, I don't know where I'm going to go. Okay, great. Well, I'm assuming wherever you go, it's going to be dependent on how much you net from this house, right? Yes, great. Then let's get together for 15 minutes and go over how much you would net. And then if that net is enough, then let's talk about buying a replacement property. And if that net is not enough, then no harm, no foul. Set up a meeting to show the net. Well, replacement properties are too expensive. I get it. I'm guessing that whatever you net on this house is going to be the down payment on the replacement property, right? Right, great. Then let's get together to see how much you would net on this home. And then I want you to take that net to my lender. Based on that, my lender will tell you what you qualify for, and then we can see if there's something out there for you. Now I've got the ball moving.
How many times, Robert?
What?
How many times?
How many times do I have the ball moving?
No, how many times do no. How many times do you close for the appointment?
A couple times. I'm not going to beg. But I just want to try to close a couple times to see if I can get in the game. Because again, there's something that they've thought about. I've got to figure that out. I also wrote down, this is a really important point. When people want to buy a home, is it usually the down payment or the monthly payment that's the problem?
The monthly payment.
I agree.
Down payment.
Yeah, I think for most people, it's more the down payment is a bigger problem. I think most people can pay a $3,000 mortgage. They don't have $100,000 to put down. I asked that to a couple lenders yesterday, and they said it was the same thing. Well, if I have a house right now and I have a condo or a small house, and I've built up $100,000 in equity over the last 2 years, guess what I now have at my disposal for a bigger house?
Equity.
Equity, the down payment. I have it. Well, what happens if prices go down? Again, I don't think they are, but let's just say to a homeowner, what happens if prices go down? What have I just lost?
You can't buy.
I can't buy. I lost my down payment.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my down payment because now I don't have as much equity to go get that bigger house that I want. Right now, I can go get the bigger house because I have the down payment at my disposal. I have to sell, but I have the down payment. If prices go down and I lose that equity, I don't have the down payment for the bigger house anymore, which means I'm stuck.
That's interesting.
So when you're talking to people who have a smaller home or a condo and they're thinking, yeah, we'd love to move into something bigger. I got kids, they're growing. Great. We got to get you into a bigger house now. You have the down payment at your disposal. Do you think any real estate agent has had that conversation with any of those people recently? Everybody say no.
No.
So you get to be the one.
Mm.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, I got some really interesting stuff to talk about. All right. So anything other than a no means dig deeper. I wrote down here, next point, you have to get more face-to-face meetings, either in person or virtual face-to-face. Get more face-to-face meetings. Hearing it is one thing, seeing it is another. So you could tell them about their equity. You could tell them about their net. You can tell them about all these other different things. Yeah. I hear it. Hold on. Let's get together either in person or virtually, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, whatever. Let me show it to you. Let me show you the number. Let me show you how I came up with this. Hearing it is one thing. They hear stuff all the time. Seeing it is another. Get more face-to-face. Plus, when you get people face-to-face, they open up more, they ask more questions, and you can see their body language. What you can't see when you talk to people on the phone is them doing this. Yeah. And they're just sending text messages. And you think you have a lead, and they actually don't care. I get face-to-face with them. I see them sending text messages. Guess what? I don't have a lead. Get more face-to-face, even if it's virtual. A couple more points, then we'll wrap it up here. I wrote down here, I said this a couple weeks ago, get out of the follow-up business. Get out of the follow-up business. Move them forward or move them out faster. Move them forward or move them out faster. I have a lead, great. Either get them forward or get them out. You don't have time to sit on leads for weeks, months at a time. You don't have time to do that because, as we discussed earlier, there's not going to be enough deals. You have to be on the hunt every day, constantly. Get out of the follow-up business. So a great question to ask people to get out of the follow-up business is the following. Call all your leads and ask them this question. What do you need to hear from me to help you decide if it's better for you to list now or later, or buy now or later, depending on what the lead wants to do? What do you need to hear or see from me to help you decide if it's better for you to list now or later? Because I don't want to just assume I know what they want to hear, or I'll just keep following up and they'll eventually tell me. No, let's get to the point, right? Let's get to the end. What do you need to hear or see from me? And then whatever they need to hear or see, have that available. You have info sparks, you have that affordability chart, you have MLS data, you have stuff at your disposal. Figure out what they need to hear. But always add that part of list now or later, because if you don't do that, then you just say, well, list now. You have commission breath. Because in some people's case, it might not be their time. They say, well, if we see prices start to go down in our area, then we'll sell. All right, let's take a look. And in their area, the graph is still spiking straight up. All right, it might not be their time based on what they said. But get out of the follow-up business. Get them moving forward or moving out faster. We don't have time to sit on leads. I wrote down here next, have 3 to 4 value propositions and be able to articulate them. Have 3 to 4 value propositions and be able to articulate them. Now, here's the key. They have to be specific. How many of you have been on social media or seen an email signature that says that agent is number 1? Yeah? Seen a couple of those? Top agent. For what? How can everybody be number 1? There's only one LeBron James. Like, not everybody can be him. But yet everyone says they're number 1. So if you just say top agent, great agent, hardworking agent, vague terms, that's not a value proposition. You have to have a value proposition. And you could use the company, you could use yourself, but you need 3 to 4 value propositions and you need to be able to articulate them. Because here's the thing. If everybody has the same value, why wouldn't they just go with a lower commission? If everybody has the same value, is there a real estate agent that will offer lower commission than you? Yes or no? So if everyone has the same value, why not do it? Let me ask you this. How many of you have eaten at a diner recently? You know, like one of those old school diners, 10, 12 bucks for a burger, breakfast, something like that. How many? Yeah, a couple of you. Well, that diner's available, but there's also a high-end breakfast place that has $20 egg breakfasts. Why wouldn't you just go to the $20 egg breakfast one? Why go to the $10 diner? You don't see the value in a $20 egg Benedict breakfast compared to the $10 diner one. You think the food's just as good. Well, if the food is just as good, why not pay for the cheaper one, right? Same thing in real estate. If you both have the same value, why not just pay for the cheaper one? You need to have 3 to 4 value propositions as to why they should choose you, and you need to be able to articulate them. So let me give you an example. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this area that we live in is a very high Spanish-speaking area. Would you agree? Yes. Okay, great. Well, I happen to speak fluently English and Spanish, which means that I will be able to effectively communicate with more of the buyers and agents coming in and out of this property, which will allow me better negotiating skills on your behalf. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. Great. Value proposition number 1. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, would you agree that this is an international real estate market in Southern California? Yes, it is. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we have $12 billion in real estate was bought from international buyers last year, which means to market your property the best, we need to market it locally and internationally, correct? Correct. Well, great. Luckily, our company has 10,000 offices worldwide that all have access to your listing through our Century 21 portal because they don't have access to our local MLS, which means your property is going to get all the exposure locally, nationally, and internationally so that we can draw more potential buyers to your listing. Do you think that will help get you the price that you want? Yes, I do. Great. That's number 2. Local market expert. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, would you agree that you need someone who's a local market expert? Yes, I do. Well, would you believe that I actually go see homes that are for sale 20 a week, which means I see 1,000 homes a year in this marketplace, inside and out. The average real estate agent does 0, which means every year I see 1,000 more homes than the average real estate agent in your area. Do you think that's a value in terms of pricing your home and negotiating on your behalf? Yes, I do. Great. You need to be able to do what I just did.
I love it. That makes sense.
There you go.
Second best, Robert.
There you go. All right. And then the last couple points here I wrote down, learn the personality styles. Learn the personality styles. If you only identify with your personality style, that means you only identify well with 25% of the market. If there's 10 to 20% less business, can you afford to only work with 25% of the market? No. Learn the personality styles.
Are there any more books you have on that, by the way? Personality
I would
style?
say Versatile Selling, just read it over and over and over again. And I would say How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He doesn't specifically talk about the personality styles, but he talks about communicating with people in different ways.
You said Versatile Selling?
Versatile Selling by Larry Wilson is the book on personality styles. But you have to learn the personality styles. You can't afford to be an expressive and not work with analyticals if there's 10 to 20% less business in the marketplace. You can't afford to be a driver and not want to work with amiables because there's 10 to 20% less business in the marketplace. You can't do that. You got to work with everybody. Learn the personality styles. And last 2 points, we'll go over these really quickly because I know we're over time. I wrote down constantly review your goals and update them accordingly. Constantly review your goals and update them accordingly. This market can and will challenge you mentally and emotionally at times. Some of you are already experiencing that. So you need to constantly review your goals and update them accordingly to keep yourself motivated, keep yourself going. Know that there's something out there for you. I say update them accordingly because can goals change?
Yes.
I mean, realistically, you wrote a business plan in January. Is it possible that your goal from January is different from your goal today? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yes, 100%. So if you're working on your goals from January and that goal is not exciting to you anymore, you're not going to go do any of the stuff I just asked. You're not going to do it. My favorite quote that I say all the time: if you don't know what you're going to exchange the money for, you're not going to do the work. If you don't know what you're going to exchange the money for, you're not going to do the work. So keep your goals in front of you all the time and update them accordingly. And then the
Hey, Rob.
last, yes.
No, is this, Robert, is this require grinding?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I try not to use that word because people don't like it. So I'll just say it requires massive effort. Massive effort sounds more positive.
Excellent.
It requires massive effort, right? It's kind of like my new way of saying, don't go preview homes, just go see homes that are for sale. It's kind of my new way of going about things. All right. The last thing I wrote down here, okay, in terms of deals in this marketplace, don't be afraid. Don't let your ego get in the way of referring a deal or partnering on a deal. I'm not saying that, you can't go get a deal. That's not my point. I don't want anyone to take this personally. But let's be honest. With gas prices the way they are you a little reluctant to drive further sometimes?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if the deal is, 25, 30 miles away, and you're like, gosh, I don't want to keep going back and forth, don't be afraid to refer it out. Get 25%. Partner with somebody on the deal. Get 50%. If you're going into a marketplace and you've never sold a home in that area, or you've never sold a home at that price point at $3-4 million, and you know that seller, when you pre-qualify them, says, well, I want a local expert, and you've never sold a home in that area, partner with somebody and get 50% instead of 0. And again, I'm not.
True that.
I mean, I see this sometimes. And again, I'm not trying, I am everyone's biggest cheerleader. Okay. Myself and Neil are everyone's biggest cheerleader. So it's never a point of, I don't think you can do it. But if the client's telling you what they want, when you pre-qualify and you don't fit that criteria, partner with somebody and get 50% of the deal. Okay.
Yep.
Or if it's too far, refer it out and get 25%, and then focus on what Neil always says, get bigger by getting smaller. Those little things add up. Those little things add up. Absolutely.
Hey, Robert, if we need to carpool, we can go with Tess. If we got to go to Fontana, right?
Whoever has the most kids probably has the biggest car. So find that person.
You're not getting points around here.
I only have one kid, so I don't have the biggest car. I also probably live farthest away, so I'm not taking anybody. All right. Questions on anything we went over today? Nope. All right. Very good. All right. Well, that's all I got. Hopefully there was 1 or 2 things in there that were good for you.